When you've built a legacy akin to that of a god, it's not very surprising to have people treat you like one. Keeping that in mind, for an undisputable legend of the game, here are the top 25 times when Jackie Chan went god mode in the movies. We're kicking things off with an extreme stunt because there are going to be plenty of fights to cover later on. King trying to make an escape from Angelo and the biker goons was hilarious to a certain degree, especially when he spanked Angelo's bare bottom in front of his mates, all of whom found it hilarious.
Let's make a deal. You kiss my ass and we'll let you go.
However, the true highlight is when King jumps from the parking garage to the next building with great proficiency. Even the goons were amazed by what they'd just seen. Damn, I guess Angelo really got violated for nothing and didn't even get payback for King. I'm gonna be honest with you here, okay? I personally don't get how they managed to make a City Hunter movie that has absolutely nothing to do with the actual City Hunter, but at the same time they also managed to give us the best Street Fighter adaptation ever put to film. Seeing Ryu dress up as Chun-Li was something I don't think anyone expected to watch. But Jackie Chan seems to have a thing for cosplay, and that's why this video exists. But hey, he did end up winning an extreme video game style fight, so I'd say all's well that ends well, right? Despite being such an icon in the world of martial arts and action films, Jackie Chan is at heart just a chill guy. Take this scene as an example. Police Story is a great franchise if you're new to Jackie Chan films because it's got quite a few installments. This is the third movie, and just as the title suggests, Chan is indeed a super cop as he manages to jump onto a moving helicopter and hang onto it as if he's hitching a ride. Damn, I wish I could pull off stunts like that to avoid early traffic. Let me just tell you something, there are going to be lots of scenes like this one moving forward, because Jackie Chan clearly seems to like making the most of his environment, in this case, a construction zone. With the way Jackie's able to pull off such scenes with ease, I really wonder what else he's capable of. Who knows? In an alternate universe, maybe he's a construction worker. It's really amazing to see how often Jackie Chan can take down dozens of opponents in obscure settings, but I guess he doesn't like doing things the normal way, eh? Yeah, our man's got way too many talents to be simply restricted to a martial artist. The man's a bona fide comedian, but as you can see here, he's also pretty good with winter sports. Well, it's not like he was doing it fluently, but he did manage to get the job done, and he also gave us some of his vintage charm by holding onto a chopper mid-air and then jumping into ice-cold water after said chopper gets blown away by an Arnold hater. The craziest thing is that stuff like this can actually be done because Jackie Chan is from the era where CGI wasn't a thing. Jackie Chan is a literal depiction of what live ammunition would look like in human form. Some of his strikes are so fast and so absurd that you don't even know how to explain them to others. Take the final battle between Cam and Sheng Lung from The Young Master as my example. It's a thrilling battle for sure, with Cam easily gaining the upper hand during the first half. However, after being given some opium water, our man activates his drunken master energy and starts landing blows at such a rapid pace that even an AK-47 would feel like a tortoise. I don't know what those moves were, but what I can say for sure is that they were fast and they were effective. What was Bro even doing at the end of the battle when he won? Was he trying to make Cam his personal puppet or something? I guess we'll never know.
你達到邊飲到邊，快樂過神仙，飲啦！
I know I'm treating this scene like an entrance, but the truth is that Chan isn't really entering anywhere as such. He's just trying to get from point A to point B in the hopes of catching up to his target. Having said that, he sure knows how to jump onto large vehicles, which is a talent I didn't know I needed. If you think about it, this could even be called the pre-Vines era of parkour. Either way, Chan gets busy and shows us some slick moves where he evades getting hit by signboards. Yeah, it's not a fight scene or anything like that, but please keep in mind that what we're seeing here isn't something an ordinary human can achieve. Plus, you've got to be really packing some serious power if you can just break through glass with a casual jump. Imagine being so badass that you're literally named Dragon. Well, Jackie Chan did direct this movie series, so I can definitely see him having some say in his character's name, but it's not like he didn't deserve it either. Dragon's an elite fighter who not only manages to defeat his enemies, but is also able to get some of them over to his side, like he did with the pirates here. The final battle of Project A's sequel had multiple opponents across multiple points of battle, but Dragon was up to the task and came out victorious with a little help from his pirate buddies too. The choreography on display was just too good to ignore, and the final result went exactly how you'd imagine it to go. The revolutionaries did whatever they could do to get rid of Dragon, but their target was a legend in the making, so they were never going to succeed. Also, I feel like I really should mention how hectic the whole thing looked. This must have been a pain to shoot, and I'm glad everyone came through it. As you can guess from the name of this movie, there's a lot of animal references in this film, especially towards the fighting styles. Chen isn't one to just go by the rules, so he decides to merge both the snake fist and the cat claw fighting styles when he battles Sheng to honor his master. The villain is played by Hwang Jung-lee, who used to be a very famous South Korean martial artist. The moves we see here are legit, and for the most part, I've had a hard time figuring out how the human body could even maneuver itself the way these two fighters were doing it. Jackie Chan impresses as usual, and the finisher blow he deals also manages to make a strong impact as he finally defeats Sheng with class. You know, it should be hard to believe that our man was such a badass even all the way back in 1978, but given his legacy, I'm not surprised at all. Normally, you'd need to be as strong as the Hulk to be able to stop a moving bus. However, when you're Jackie Chan, the bus will do everything it can to stop for you. This scene from Police Story will confirm that for you. Yeah, Hollywood action scenes have got nothing on these sequences, because we all need to remember that our man Jackie is not relying on a stuntman to do the job for him. He actually hangs onto the bus for a considerable amount of time, and even after he gets whacked off it, Bro manages to get the lead on the vehicle and stomp with his mere aura. Okay, that was a joke. He stops it because he has a gun in his hand, but I just wanted the whole thing to seem more dramatic. You can definitely see that Mr. Chan is unhinged at this moment, because you don't just dismiss an elite from your bus. That's just bad manners. Jackie Chan shows up as Jackie for Operation Condor, and the wind tunnel fight scene is, in my opinion, one of his most innovative fights ever. I can't even imagine what it must have been like to even stand in the middle of such powerful air force when these guys were actually fighting with each other. Jackie in particular had to do a lot of the heavy lifting as he was alone against two mercenaries, but he not only managed to control himself in this environment, he also was able to use it to his advantage with some additional support from the ladies. Now, the fight in itself was pretty cool, but I'm still trying to figure out what was going on in the minds of the actors when they were so close to each other that it almost felt like they were going to confess their love towards one another. Yeah, I get it's supposed to make us laugh, but I was genuinely concerned about what those dudes must have had to do not to break character.
Superman!
This may have been a sequel to The Armor of God, but bro was going to need a lot more than divine intervention to explain why he was getting so romantic with the enemy during such an intense battle. When Jackie Chan ends up playing the role of twins, you can rest assured that you're going to get double the value of what you came for. Coming in as Ma Yo and Bok Min, it's really funny to note that Ma is a musician with no aptitude for fighting, while Bok is the martial artist, and then the both of them end up doing the other specialty as well. I won't get too much into the plot because it kind of confused me the same way Inception did when I first watched it. What I will say though is that the garage fight scene against Crazy Kung and his goons was an S-tier display of Jackie Chan behavior. I say that because even when he pulls off God level moves in the battle, he somehow finds a way to tickle our funny bones as well. You've already seen it in the entries before this, and rest assured you'll see a lot more of them in entries to come as well. All I can say is that both the twins do justice to each other here, although as expected, only one of them put in 90% of the work.
Are you ready?
You know, I could have spent all my time during this entry talking about how badass Jackie Chan is that he was able to beat a boxer at his own game despite not really being an expert in the sport. However, this scene quickly goes from boxing to martial arts to spinning eyes throughout its 10-minute runtime. So I'll just classify it as an exemplary display of intensity and skill. Make no mistake, his opponent Alan was played by Bradley James Allen, who was a professional martial arts fighter and stunt choreographer. He was definitely fighting someone serious, although the fight takes a turn to comedy right in the end when both men are more focused on giving us weird expressions than they are on fighting. Having said that, Cien Chan manages to get in some seriously dangerous strikes before this, and he had Alan sweating before he could even realize it. Yes, it wasn't an outright victory, but bro didn't need it to be that way considering the amount of damage he dealt. And yeah, for whatever it's worth, they do box during the first half of this sequence, so that's got to count for something, right? Yeah, Police Story is a name you're gonna have to get used to, as Jackie Chan plays the same character from the series in its 4th installment. At this point, you could say Police Story walked so that Fast and Furious could run. Anyway, there's only so much you can do when it comes to fight scenes, but when we consider Jackie Chan, he'll always find a way to entertain his audience. In this elongated battle sequence, he uses his creativity to add to his versatility by using multiple items to strike his opponents. The most notable tool from all of them is quite easily the ladder. Yeah, a man is able to double up with the ladder by using it for both offense and defense, which is something I never thought could be the case. Chan makes sure to keep the overall tone light, as his panic state does add some humor to the sequence, but he also shows us why he's the god of improv by being able to make use of all his surroundings. I also like that little taunt he gives to his opponents by swinging the ladder around as if it's a pair of nunchucks or something. Yeah, he hilariously surrenders when he sees he's outnumbered to make a difference, but don't mistake that for weakness. Okay, so this one's a combination of two scenes that involve multiple vehicles, but it only goes on to show how skilled Jackie Chan is a fighter as well as a stuntman. Also, I covered the first scene in an earlier entry, so I'm not going to focus on that one at all. Police Story makes yet another appearance and remains one of his most successful franchises of all time, with this particular sequence from Super Cop pretty much cementing that claim. Now, before I go on to talk about the ridiculous stunts that Chan pulls off, I also want to shout out Michelle Yeoh for giving us a pretty badass bike stunt, which she did on her own. This would have been enough to land in today's video, but the topic is Jackie Chan, so I'll talk about how bro hung onto a flying helicopter, as I mentioned earlier, landed on a train, and then managed to avoid the crashed chopper's blade while trying to beat his opponent. Yeah, all of this happens in the same sequence, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that Quentin Tarantino famously claimed, and I quote, "Police Story 3 contains the greatest stunts ever filmed in any movie ever." Yeah, that's a lot of praise coming from such a big director. However, with all the damage the chopper had to take, I'm not sure if Arnold Schwarzenegger had the same sentiments. We're into top 10 territory, so I figured we should celebrate with a little bit of booze and a little bit of action. Well, in Jackie Chan's case, I'd say nothing's little with his character Wong. The market fight had him showcase some rapid, fast moves that you'd easily missed if you do so much as blink an eye. However, he really started to level up once he started getting an assist from the crowd in the form of alcohol bottles. The enemy knew this meant bad news for them, so they did try their best to stop him, but it was too late by then because bro had turned not just into the Drunken Master, but the Drunken God himself. Wong was so dedicated to drinking his booze that he maintained perfect balance even after his opponent moved away from being his support. As a matter of fact, that particular pose makes me wonder if the Wachowskis saw this movie before making The Matrix. I mean, it's way too similar to Neo's move for it to be a mere coincidence. Well, I'm not here to talk about copyright infringement, so I'll just stick to the intense action sequence that actually follows this, as Wong takes everyone to town without sparing any consideration for them. I'll say it once again, the speed of his moves is way too fast for a guy his age, and this is exactly why Jackie Chan is a legend of the genre.
Monkey drinks master's wine.
Benny Urquidez made his name a few years earlier, but it's because of the reputation he built back then that he was able to land yet another role as a brilliant henchman in Dragons Forever. Now, this sequence doesn't only focus on Jackie versus Benny, because the fight in the factory begins with Jackie and Sammo Hung joining forces to fight off Hua and his thugs. It's a great display of teamwork at first, with Jackie showing off some stellar moves while in a suit, but the moment Benny comes into the picture, he immediately takes down Sammo's character Wong, who even acknowledges how skilled his opponent is. That gives way to the main event, wherein Jackie and Benny give us yet another brutal display of skills. Of course, our hero emerges triumphant, but the way he pulls off his finisher moves here is most definitely without mercy. In the middle of all this madness, I also have to give a shout out to Hua, who manages to be a nuisance without really doing too much. I mean, the guy's just out there smoking a cigar and fighting the heroes as if it's no one's business. The part where he kicks Jackie right as the fight with Benny begins was pretty hilarious. I wouldn't be surprised if that was an unscripted moment too. Yes, this was the fight that made the two stars of the previous entry such good pals. There are very few people in this world who can match Jackie Chan blow for blow, but Benny Urquidez managed to do so well that he earned praise and appreciation from the boss man himself. We saw a crazy sequence in the previous entry, but the fight between Thomas and Benny, who plays Mondale's henchman in Wheels on Meals, was the event that shook the world of martial arts. It's a lengthy display of skill and brutality, but at no point does the fight look like it's in bad spirit. Both fighters show respect to each other, and even though Thomas does struggle for a bit, he eventually turns up the heat and manages to emerge victorious with a series of blows that would even make Kratos bow down in amazement. Of course, Benny impressed as well, specifically that roundhouse kick that blew out the candles. And if you notice carefully, there's a brief moment where Jackie Chan gives a thumbs up to his opponent, thus proving that he was actually impressed by his moves. I mean, he had to use a tickle attack to gain the upper hand, so that speaks for itself. Of course, Thomas was always going to be the winner, and he was holy enough to spare his opponent of death by holding onto him as he crashed through the windows. Man, imagine having the both of these guys in their prime fighting together. I'd probably tap out just by looking at them.
One, two, three, four. 2, 2, 3, 4.
Sung Jin-woo may be the king of aura farming as of modern trends, but Jackie Chan was the OG master back in the day, and he also had a fairly proportionate chin. Jokes aside, this car chase from Armor of God was a literal work of art. There isn't any fighting going on here, but the car chase was so brilliantly filmed that it gave the vehicle its own vibe. I think what we see Jackie driving here is a Mitsubishi Colt, and oh boy, never has a car looked more badass than it does here. Apart from evading so many opponents, the jump it pulls off towards the end of the scene is absolute cinema. This scene was filmed in Croatia, and from what I've heard, the kids went crazy when they saw this being shot because the car wasn't available to them at the time.
Okay, that's it. They asked for it. Hold on.
I wouldn't blame them either. The way they managed to pull the whole thing together, you'd feel as if this was a customized model only for the elite. Then again, credit goes to the Asian Hawk who manages to drive it around with such flair, showcasing his overall versatility. Yes, that's what he's called in the movie. I wasn't being insensitive or anything.
Hey, look out!
Before I say anything about this scene, I just want to let you know that Jackie Chan is around 40 years old in this movie. Yeah, and he's able to move around much better than I could in my teenage years. And that's not even me trying to inflict a self-burn or anything like that. Bro is like a being blessed with eternal youth here, especially as he takes down Tony and his whole gang in the highly popular warehouse scene from Rumble in the Bronx. It starts off as a 1v1 battle on a pool table, but it quickly escalates into an all-out war with the whole gang involved. Jackie's character Kang has to think fast, which he does by utilizing everything he can find in the warehouse. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating when I saw this. Our man is literally using refrigerators, trolley carts, and many other grocery items that none of us would have even thought to use in a battle. I can't help but wonder how people come up with this kind of choreography while also managing to make it look so good. But in all honesty, this is how an action scene is done the right way. The fight's very clear to the viewers, the movements are connected and fluid, and there's a whole bunch of neat individual moments to provide added value. You know how Ares is known for becoming stronger whenever there are feelings of rage around him? Or how Zeus is known for impregnating every woman he comes across? Well, Jackie Chan is known for adding a lot of humor to his fight scenes, and the rope factory battle from 1989's Miracles is a proper testament to that statement.
It's okay, I'm strong. Seize him! No!
Kuo gets brought to Faye's factory by Tiger and is forced to fight his way through everyone in order to gain their respect, but more importantly, to go back to Madame Cow, aka Lady Rose. Bro leaves no stone unturned in the comedic sense as he pulls off all kinds of creative stunts that would do more harm to the person doing them rather than the person on the receiving end. Like, I can't even cling onto the floor in Roblox, and this dude's out here defying the laws of physics like it's no big deal. Having said that, I really have to give it to Mr. Chan for managing to give us 8 minutes of pure entertainment, which would have definitely taken a lot out of him, considering how intense and long this sequence was. And yes, funny thing is that we have excellent fighters like Ken Lo and Billy Chow too, although they don't shine like they do in their other appearances. Times I see this fight because it amazes me each and every time. Heck, if it were up to me, I'd rewind the video non-stop just like Doctor Strange rewound time against Dormammu. Anyway, the rooftop fight scene from Who Am I is one of the most epic moments you'll ever see in a Jackie Chan film. He coincidentally plays a version of himself, which I think was necessary to channel those elite moves. Bro was facing off against not one, but two of Morgan's henchmen, one being a Taekwondo expert and the other being a master of Kai Li Fo.
Take it easy. We're got plenty of time. 20 seconds!
On top of that, one of these guys is the super badass Ron Smorenberg, who shows off his own skills in rather impressive fashion throughout the scene. Either way, the focus remains on Jackie, who manages to somehow blend martial arts with acrobatics to be able to pull off an astounding victory against both the henchmen. The only thing that was probably left was for our man to land a fatality, but we all know that's not how he rolls. And yes, there was a fair bit of comedy to it as well, specifically when Jackie and Ron were kicking each other's legs. Yeah, that moment felt like when two kids are playing some game with each other rather than two fully grown martial artists duking it out on a freaking rooftop. Pulling off a stunt of your own is more badass than a fight scene you actually didn't participate in, and lucky for us, Jackie Chan does both. That too, without any flaws. As far as 1983's Project A goes, our man managed to pull off a rather dangerous stunt that could have easily sent him to God had anything gone wrong. Instead, he got treated like one after pulling it off so smoothly. It's the jump scene from the clock tower, which was evidently from a high distance. However, Chan's character, the appropriately named Sergeant Dragon, manages to make the leap of faith, or in this case, drop of faith, while managing to cushion himself a couple of times before actually hitting the ground. Once again, this is actually Jackie Chan doing the stunt, which is badass in its own right. Also, he wrote and directed this movie too, which means that the idea for the stunt may have very well come from him. Bro really went like, we gotta make this movie more exciting and I've got a great idea for it. I'm gonna jump off a clock tower. Yeah, stunt insurance companies really must be pissing their pants whenever an application from a Jackie Chan movie comes their way. Some gods require peace offerings to share their blessings, whereas others are a bit more extreme and demand sacrifices to fulfill your wishes. Jackie Chan, on the other hand, is more than happy to show off his fighting skills at the cost of some booze. The final battle from Drunken Master 2 between Wong Fei-hung and John was a treat to the eyes right at the very end when Wong activated God mode with the power of bamboo liquor. This sequence is the most perfect blend of action and comedy you'll ever see in a fight, and kudos to both Jackie Chan as well as Ken Lo for pulling it off. What first seemed like a bullying session had its tables turned as soon as Wong finished gulping his final sip, and then he proceeded to show us moves that only the heavens would be able to decipher. I personally don't even understand how a human being is able to inflict damage with movements like those, but then again, I'm no Jackie Chan, am I? Also, did you know that the Drunken Master techniques directly inspired Rock Lee's Drunken Fist style from Naruto? Yeah, I was thinking of including it in the earlier entry, but it just felt appropriate to make the reference for this particular fight. Considering how dominant the Police Story franchise has been today, a lot of scenes could have made it to the #1 spot. However, I don't think anyone's going to be complaining to have the coveted spot go to the massive mall fight from the first Police Story movie. Jackie Chan plays an inspector named Kevin, alternatively called Chan Ka-kui, which may not be the most original thought a screenwriter would have had, but I'll let that pass because the same people gave us a brilliant display of skills in the mall. This is actually not a typical Jackie Chan action sequence because you can see actual rage in the character, especially after he sees his lady friend getting hurt. This is almost 10 minutes of pure madness where Mr. Chan shows us all kinds of sequences ranging from sliding down poles to fighting multiple goons at the same time. The one thing that did remain constant was the smashing of glass, and bro even rode a freaking bike through said glass for added effect. If there was a god I'd have compared him to here, then it would have to be the god of chaos without a doubt. The standout still remains the ending where Chan lost all his composure and beat up the villain as well as his lawyer without any regard whatsoever for the legal consequences of his actions. Even the other cops were like, nah, I sure as heck ain't writing that report. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.